The Politics podcast is brought to you by your friends at The Contender, the game of presidential debate. Go ahead on over there right now. Buy the game that everybody is talking about. If you've already played the game, go ahead and review it on Amazon. If you've already reviewed it on Amazon, then go ahead and play the game again with your friends and family. Remember, we love to see people send their pictures of them playing the game to our Facebook and Twitter. Twitter, it is Contender Game, and Facebook, it is The Contender Game. Like it, follow it, live it, love it. And by the Patreon, patreon.com/JURY. Not only on the Patreon do you get the Politics podcast, but you get the mini pods that we've been doing, the live streams of the debates, the little recaps that we've been doing in between the primaries, the one mic show, the jury program, and little bonuses we throw in there every once in a while, including some bonus podcasts that I've been doing with Brett the Amtrak Aroundsville. It's the best deal on the internet. Patreon.com/JURY. We are making our big financing push as we come toward the election, so please be a part of the team. And thanks to everybody who is. That is at patreon.com/JURY. But with that, let's go ahead and start the show.
Politics. Yes.
Ted Cruz is in love with a stripper man. Welcome, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Justin Robert Young. This is the Politics podcast, the grassroots candidate that is leading the hearts and minds of the podcast public. Hey, listen, this is something I'd never do because I like to, I made a decision when I was podcasting a long time ago that I wanted to not obsess with numbers because I don't think that numbers are necessarily healthy for the product. That ultimately, you know whether or not a podcast that you are doing has traction by other metrics. By how many people are talking to you on Twitter, by how many people are coming to you with their thoughts, whether or not you are creating engaging and engrossing content that brings people together. You know that by ways other than cold, hard, manipulated numbers. That very often, for people that are very passionate about what they do, numbers can be a hindrance as opposed to a help. So I try to not obsess on where we rank on iTunes. I try to not obsess about how many people download us on all the various mediums. I try not to look at those. Try to keep myself away. But I'll be good goddamn, folks, if it isn't something that I very much believe that this show is something, dare I say it, important. Now, I'm not saying that my opinion is any way greater than anybody else's or that you should pay attention or listen to the bloviations of this one, Justin Robert Young, any more than your favorite pundits. What I'm saying is that the more I get in to this political media, the more I understand that everything is either written by people who are bored with this because they've done it forever or just here to rile you up. They're just here to say, ooh, my side's better than your side. And we represent a new way. New way? We want to go ahead and tell you that this is something that you should laugh at. This is something that you should enjoy. You should be able to have conversations with people that you disagree with and have a good time while you are doing it. Because, folks, this doesn't happen all that often. Obviously, it's once in every 4 years that we have a presidential debate. But this one, this particular race is delightful on so many ways. Do not be fooled by those that might tell you, this is serious, you guys. We got to really get serious about it. Because you want to know what? You can get serious on election day. You can get serious when you got to walk into a voting booth and you got to make your decision. Right now, soak it in. Everything doesn't have to be a gladiatorial sport. We are the rodeo clown of the political process. And with that, I want to implore you to head on over to iTunes, head on over to the Google Play Store, head on over to wherever you catch this podcast and give it a rating and a reviewing. Because we're going to move this podcast. We've been waiting. We've been waiting. Down here in the national section of the iTunes podcasting store. But this week, we're charging out of the gates down into the political and news section. Oh, it's a bunch of heavyweights in there, but we believe that we can make a splash there, but we need your help to do it. Recommend us to a friend, write, review, subscribe. It's all here for you. But with that, let's get out of the self-promotion. Let's get out of the me putting myself over. Let's go ahead and get into the week that was in politics. And holy crud, ladies and gentlemen, do we have a lot to talk about. Where do we begin? Where do we begin? Because we're out of New Hampshire. We're now looking on to the Palmetto State that should tell us more about this race than what we've learned. Because really, what South Carolina represents to the primary process is the first time that the adults get to talk. Now, nothing against Iowa, nothing against New Hampshire. It just, those are, and I use a lot of wrestling terminology on this show, but Iowa and New Hampshire, they're gimmick matches. They're tag team matches. There's a lot of things that go into it that can benefit certain candidates. The electorate in both of those states like to make big decisions. If anything, those are good for thinning the herd. So now all of a sudden, the jokers are out, and now we just got our players. Players. All the players came from far and wide. Because these are the folks with the money, with the support, and with the gumption to let this one go the distance. On the Democratic side, what we thought to be was an absolute runaway, a blowout, a coronation has turned into, well, probably still a blowout and a coronation. But we have at least the echoes. The echoes. Who's that? Speak louder. Speak a little louder. It's 2008 knocking at the door, Hillary. Surprise! Because we have the ghosts, the echoes, the hauntings of what happened in 2008 to Hillary. And she's getting a little tingly. Starting to make some moves. Starting to hear those stories. Ooh, Hillary's thinking about making changes to her staff. Ooh, Hillary's thinking about changing her strategy. Ooh, Hillary is going to be moderating her message so it speaks more to the people that she needs to get over the hump. Which in this case is black people in South Carolina. And that is another interesting thing that I'm sure we're going to get more and more into as we get closer to the South Carolina primary process. However, let's focus on the Democratic side. A couple debates since the last time that we talked. The most recent one was last night. It took place in Milwaukee, Algonquin for the good land. It was interesting. You know, I mentioned on the podcast last week that foreign policy was a major issue for Bernie Sanders. That when Bernie Sanders gets up on stage and talks about foreign policy, he needs to come up with 90 ways to talk about how he didn't vote for Iraq and Hillary did. Since Hillary is a former Secretary of State, this is a natural point of strength for her. Hillary Clinton just tries to name 57 world leaders because if she gets to 60, she's going to get a free pizza. So Bernie Sanders has to go back to his corner. Him and his people got to get around and say, hey, Bernie, you're getting your ass kicked on foreign policy. What you going to do? Bernie says, oh, I don't know. Bernie, we got to figure this out, man, because you're going to get up on stage and you just can't keep repeating the fact that you voted against Iraq because apparently now it's open season on calling out the fact that politicians use talking points, and someone's going to put your ass in a vine and they're going to Rubio you to the point where everyone's going to point out that you are a one-issue candidate, and if you ain't talking about income inequality, you have nothing to say. Bernie, what you got? Oh, I don't know. All right, Bernie, for real. It's 5 minutes before the debate. We got to figure out what you're going to do to differentiate your foreign policy from Hillary Clinton's, because we got to make this a weakness for her and a strength for us. So let's point out her weaknesses. What about Benghazi? No. All right, we got to point out her weaknesses. What about Iran? No, that was after she left. Oh, God damn it. All right, we got to point out her weaknesses. What are we going to do? I got it. Bernie Sanders goes out on stage and says, I know how to turn Hillary Clinton's foreign policy from a strength to a weakness. I'm going to bring up Henry Kissinger. Huh? Do you remember Henry Kissinger? Huh?
You know, Henry Kissinger, he looks like this. He has a very distinctive voice.
Remember him? No, a lot of people don't. I remember him because I am the host of the most popular presidential podcast this side of the Atlantic Ocean. But a lot of people don't. That being said, it's a really smart play if everybody was 90 years old. And it's a smart play for a couple of reasons. I'm going ahead and making fun of it. And for those of you who didn't watch, here's what happened. Bernie comes out and says, hey, here's a point of distinction between me and Hillary Clinton. Hillary wrote a book, said that one of her mentors was Henry Kissinger. Henry Kissinger is a much maligned by people on the left, a former Secretary of State. He is known for his diplomacy, and I believe he is still alive. You can find him on speaking tours, and every once in a while he'll get quoted for stuff. And, you know, whenever there's a soccer documentary, for whatever reason, you see his face in it. So what does this do? Theoretically, for Bernie Sanders, it points out that she has an aggressive, hawkish mentality, and that if she were president, you might even expect a more aggressive foreign policy than Obama's. Because this is another tricky thing that came up very, very, very pointedly during the debate, which is that Hillary Clinton wants to tie herself to Obama as tight as she can, because Obama's got good approval ratings with people that she needs to vote for. And she is making a big effort to say, Bernie, you are not on Obama. In fact, I heard what you said. You were saying that Obama is whack. Obama is lame. Obama did all these things that you disagree with. Obama should have had a primary challenger. He's been a disappointment as a president for the progressive cause. That's what she says to Bernie. Bernie turns back and says, Madam Secretary, that is a low blow. All right, fine. That one sounded a little like Nixon. Sorry about that. So, Bernie brings up Kissinger. And Hillary bites. Hillary says, hey, listen, I'm going to defend Kissinger a little bit. Now, why is this? I mean, it's delightful for me because anytime anybody can bring up Henry Kissinger,
I get to do my Henry Kissinger impression, and there is not a lot of reasons for me to do a Henry Kissinger impression in the modern era.
But considering the vast majority of the people that are voting for Bernie Sanders and he needs to turn out are young people, you got to imagine that they met that news with a loud and resounding, who's Henry Kissinger, in unison on Snapchat. Unless, and this is something that I was just kind of tossing around in my head, and I'm probably being too clever by half, but maybe this is not such a dumb thing. Maybe him bringing up Henry Kissinger is kind of brilliant. Because number one, maybe the youth of today isn't so ignorant to the past as we might imagine, as previous generations have been ignorant to the past, because this generation has Wikipedia. the universe of knowledge available at their fingertips. And I'm sure that the Henry Kissinger Wikipedia page last night got quite a workout. Although I haven't really seen a ton of Henry Kissinger think pieces in the more youth-oriented media today, so maybe I'm trying to be too clever there. But this is something that I know is true. Maybe the Henry Kissinger card is more for Bernie to play against Hillary's strengths. Because one of the most reliable Hillary Clinton voting blocks, because again, he's running far behind in South Carolina, or at least we think, because no one's run a friggin' opinion poll on the Democratic side since Iowa. Sorry for yelling. But theoretically, he's still running very, very far behind against Hillary Clinton. And so, as much as exciting his own base, he needs to erode hers. One of the most reliable voting blocks for Hillary has been white, rich people. Old, white, rich people. And old, white, rich liberals will be the people to talk your ear off about how evil Henry Kissinger was. They are the chief people to talk about how evil Henry Kissinger was. And maybe Bernie Sanders is thinking, well, I got to go ahead and speak to old, white, rich people. Oh, wait. I'm old. I'm white. I'm rich. I know exactly how to talk to these people because I am one of them. To think like them, you must become them. And they're smash cut to Bernie Sanders, getting a tenured position at a university and, buying a Tesla and oh, now I know how I will speak to them. I will bring up Henry Kissinger. So maybe it's that. I think I'm probably thinking about this a little too hard. I think in general, this is probably something that if anything is a push on the issue, which is a win for Bernie because he just didn't get pummeled with it, and that you could probably see future debates going in this direction where Bernie literally just has to keep the fire off him. He's just got to not get his ass kicked on foreign policy because that's easily the biggest position in which Hillary can just trounce him. Because A, it highlights the fact that she's more presidential ready than he is. And the idea that she is more electable because she has done it before. That's reinforced by the fact that she knows all these world leaders by their first names. But at the same time, Henry Kissinger, a win for everyone with an impression of Henry Kissinger. There's one more Hillary Clinton article that I did want to bring up today. This one comes from Reuters. Let's go ahead and bring it up here on the screen. Clinton-Sanders clash over Obama as they vie for minority votes. Oh wait, no, this didn't come through here. Oh man! All right, so this one screwed up. This article that I was reading is a Democratic. This is the lead here from Reuters. Democratic U.S. presidential candidate Hillary Clinton will try to mend her badly wounded campaign in a debate on Thursday with rival Bernie Sanders and encounter many of her donors said would allow her to play a role that suits her, the embattled underdog. I'm going to read that again. This is the pregame for the debate last night. Democratic U.S. presidential candidate Hillary Clinton will try to mend her badly wounded campaign in a debate on Thursday with rival Bernie Sanders and encounter many of her donors said would allow her to play a role that suits her, embattled underdog. Huh? Hillary Clinton does well as the embattled underdog? Hillary Rodham Clinton, right? Wife of Senator for no, she's not good as she's terrible. She's not good at all as the embattled underdog. She's good as the movement candidate. She's good as the I'm tailor-made to be first female president candidate. she's not so good at embattled underdog. Now, you might be conflating this with the fact that she's not great at front runner either, right? But every election she's won, she's been the prohibitive favorite. Now, she lost a very big election where she was the prohibitive favorite, but that's only to say that she started off there, because she really lost 2008 when she was the embattled underdog. That's not a good look for her. Let me remind y'all of what happens when Hillary Clinton is the embattled underdog. Bill Clinton unleashed and saltier than an ocean-encrusted lighthouse. That's what happens when Hillary is the embattled underdog. Calling Barack Obama a fairy tale from Bill Clinton. That's what happens when Hillary Clinton is the embattled underdog. Hillary Clinton doing shots in West Virginia and holding guns in Pennsylvania. That's what happens when Hillary is the embattled underdog. It's 3 a.m. There's a phone ringing in the White House. They want to know what happens when Hillary Clinton is the embattled underdog. That's what happens when Hillary's the embattled underdog. She releases commercials that haunt her even to this day, because that's the commercial that the Bernie Sanders folks are going to throw right in her face when she's talking about how much she loves Barack Obama. It's not a good look. She's not great and we're gonna pick ourselves up and we're gonna go. That's not a good look. Soaring, presidential, that's a good look for her. Now, granted, she ain't great at that either. But that doesn't mean that she's great on the other end. Just something I wanted to pick up. Let's go ahead and flip this one out on over to the Republican side, because I got two thoughts here. We could talk about the log jam that we have right now coming out of New Hampshire, or we can talk about Ted Cruz and his amazing week of ads. Let's go ahead and get to my big, gigantic point. This is where it would be great if I had imaging. Big, gigantic point. Right now, you have three candidates, three little pigs. One is John Kasich. John Kasich came out in second place in New Hampshire. John Kasich has no money. Oh. John Kasich has very little infrastructure. Oh. John Kasich is somebody who's tailor-made for moderate northeastern states, not so tailor-made for the South, wherein evangelicals and more deep red conservatives live and vote. Oh. Then you got Jeb Bush. Jeb Bush has the exact same voting results thus far in 2016 as Rudolph Giuliani had in 2008. Oh. Jeb Bush has a former president endorsing him. Yay. It's George W. Bush. Yay. You know, he's got the endorsement of a very, very popular politician in South Carolina, Lindsey Graham. Yay. But Jeb Bush is polling in single digits in the Palmetto State. And it doesn't look like much of anything is going to happen to make that change. Oh. And then you have Marco Rubio. Marco Rubio looked poised to make this a three-way dance, not for the Republican mainstream, but rather for the whole shebang. Marco Rubio was riding a wave of momentum into New Hampshire, and then in one Saturday night fever, it all broke, because he had to dispel this fiction that he was an inevitable candidate. In fact, I came to you last week on this show proposing a long-running bit in which we would watch as Marco Rubio went from moderate guy, acceptable compared to Ted Cruz and Donald Trump, to Hitler, because I believed that he was going to be somebody that overperformed in New Hampshire and then went on to South Carolina with more of a head of steam. That didn't happen. And we are now officially changing the is Marco Rubio Hitler scale into is Marco Rubio Dan Quayle yet? Because that is the brush he got painted by. And he didn't react well the day after the debate. He didn't react well on that Monday leading into the New Hampshire primaries. And he then ate his own bizzalls. 5th place for the Rubes. And so now the idea is that Kasich, Bush, and Rubio were locked in a 4-way battle royal in New Hampshire and are now locked in a 3-man battle royal in South Carolina to see who will be the establishment, which is really just code word for moderate Republicans, choice for for their nomination to go against Ted Cruz and Donald Trump. And I am here to tell you that if that is what happens, and these three continue to go at each other, then we are looking at either Ted Cruz or Donald Trump as the Republican nominee. I believe that the only salvation for any of those three is one thing. And that, my friends, is the head of Donald J. Trump. One of them is going to figure out that the way that they are going to get the most media coverage, that they are going to get the most momentum, the way that they are going to get the most out of South Carolina and the SEC primaries coming afterward are to tap into the high negative ratings of Donald Trump by embarrassing him. How do you embarrass Donald Trump? Well, I don't know, but I know that it would help to try. It would help to try, because that dude, for a man who is running at the polling numbers that he is running in, has had an unprecedentedly clear lane to victory. Nobody touches him. I guess either people assume that he's going to blow up by himself or that we'll deal with him once we figure all this out. But I believe that the establishment will say to themselves, because now everyone's getting a little shaky. Everyone's starting to look at Ted Cruz and say, oh, God, Ted. Oh, we hate Ted. He sucks. Oh, we don't like him. These are the establishment Republicans, the big money men, the old heads in the party. He never does what we tell him to do, and he's embarrassing, and he goes off message, and he's a megalomaniac. We don't like him. We don't like him, but maybe he's better than Trump. And I believe that the only way that you're going to see one of these three come out of there is if they go hard in the paint on Donald. And I said this in my election recap. Here's how you go after Donald Trump. He's a carpetbagger and a crybaby. He is fickle on his issues, and he doesn't deal with adversity well. These are cardinal sins in the conservative movement. I mean, one of the greatest insults that Republicans throw at each other is rhino. Hands up in the chat room if you are a liberal voter or anybody and you know what rhino is. We're doing a flash poll right here. Everybody watching live on diamondclub.tv, and you can see these come in watching our replays on the youtube.com/Justin Robert Young. So apparently, yeah, people know what this is. Hot Beverages does not. A lot of people do. And as Yes Man said there, RHINO stands for Republican in name only. One of the most magical things about Donald Trump's run to the top of the Republican primary is the idea that in a world where the biggest sin that you can do is be a rhino, a Republican in name only, is that the most authentic candidate is the one who's been on camera saying that he's pro-choice, that Republicans are crazy, and that he would endorse government paying for a single-payer system for health care. He's not a rhino. He's a real deal. Now, granted, none of these other people have been on TV talking about that, but for whatever reason, you can trust him and his conservative credentials, and yet nobody has gone after him about that. I suspect somebody will in South Carolina, but we'll have to wait and see, because maybe they'll just all keep crabbing each other's ass for the next 3 weeks, and you know, we'll have Donald Trump just romp in South Carolina as well, and then become our next president. There is one man who is running very competitively against them. That is Ted Cruz. Ted Cruz got himself into some ad controversy this week. So we're gonna play for you both the ads here. Let's go ahead and start off with what I believe to be the. This isn't necessarily a great ad, but we will go ahead and play it here for you. The controversy isn't necessarily about the ad, but rather who is in it. Let's go ahead and take a look at this ad airing in South Carolina.
Anyone else here struggled with being lied to?
Well, I voted for a guy who was a Tea Party hero on the campaign trail, and then he went to D.C. and played patty cake with Chuck Schumer and cut a deal on amnesty.
Does that make you angry?
Angry? Makes me feel dumb for trusting him.
Maybe you should vote for more than just a pretty face next time.
You guys have room for one more?
Come on in. Come on in.
Come on in, you can have Frank's chair.
I'm Ted Cruz, and I approve this.
So there we go. That is the ad. It is from Ted Cruz, from his official campaign, not a super PAC, which is important to note. This is a fairly clever ad. Highlights Marco Rubio's negatives, that he is somebody that is not who he says he is, that when he got on the big stage as a senator, he sold out his principles. That is an attack against him. It highlights the fact that Ted Cruz is authentic, a key differentiator between not only Marco Rubio and Donald Trump for Ted Cruz. However, it was pulled off of the Ted Cruz YouTube page. Why? Seems pretty good. Seems like it highlights what we need if you are the Ted Cruz campaign. Well, it is because this lady... Let's go ahead and get a shot of this.
Anyone else here
lady
struggled
here.
with?
Let's go ahead and get a big shot of. Oh, there she is, the one who says maybe you should vote for somebody that isn't just a pretty face. Let's go ahead. There we go. That lady right there. Who's that lady? That lady is Amy Lindsay. Amy Lindsay. Amy Lindsay apparently has a checkered IMDb page. She's got some embarrassing former roles. Now, Amy Lindsay talked to BuzzFeed and said she is a conservative. She's thinking about trying to vote for either Ted Cruz or Donald Trump. She was happy to star in this Ted Cruz ad. She is an effective part of the ad. And she is somebody that feels that she can be an asset to the conservative movement because people can look and understand that her filmography is not anything to be ashamed of, that the big tent conservative movement can indeed have people who have worked in the kind of acting work that she's done in the past. Now, how bad is this acting work? Folks, I am here to tell you that this acting work is shameful. This acting work has set back those who care about the issues surrounding it decades. This is just an absolute disgust and disgrace. And I am here to tell you that Amy Lindsay should be embarrassed about her former roles. She should go to sleep every night and say, I am ashamed, Lord. When will you deliver me forgiveness for the sins I've committed against those that I believed to be equal to? Of course, I am talking about Amy Lindsay's work on the show Star Trek Voyager, which not only completely destroyed all the goodwill built up by everybody who was a fan of Star Trek The Next Generation, but also completely sandbagged Deep Space Nine, and has left Star Trek off television until this year when Brian Fuller was announced as the showrunner for a new CBS series. Amy Lindsay, for shame! For shame! I'm glad that she rehabilitated her career by doing those softcore pornographies that now apparently other people are upset about. But Voyager, for which she played a bit part as the Doctor's wife in the series finale, that should be a black mark. And Ted Cruz is right to run from any kind of association with Voyager. And they're stranded in the Delta. You're right. Captain Jack says Enterprise ran until 2005. And that was also a shame. And if she were on Enterprise, then I'd be yelling about that too. Screw Voyager. Who cares if she was in Erotic Confessions, Carnal Wishes, Secrets of a Chambermaid, and Insatiable Desires? Voyager was a crock. Why are you going to do it? I mean, it didn't pay any attention to rules of science fiction. It was just, Captain Janeway was all right, but does it make sense that you're going to do a Star Trek series where exploration is the point and you're literally going to keep them out in the Delta for the entire run of the series? And meanwhile, it's not like year on year the ship gets any more dilapidated or they have to have issues about rationing. Like, come on, just a crock. So anyway, while getting out from what people are already calling Voyager Gate, the Ted Cruz campaign decided to release one of their more irreverent ads. This is a spoof of a popular film. We'll just go ahead and let it play, and then you guys can pick up where it's from.
Damn, it feels good to be a Clinton. Damn, it feels good to be a Clinton. A shameless politician always plays her cards right. Got a crew for the fight on the airwaves. Left dogs in the press keep their mouths tight. Cause a Clinton never needs to explain why it is what they done or with who. A real Clinton knows that they're entitled, and you don't get to know what they do.
What difference does it make?
For Clinton, what's loaded in some fat Apple file? A Clinton plays a victim for promotion. A Clinton kills it off with a smile. Damn, it feels good to be a Clinton. A server full of secrets ain't no thing. Damn, it feels good to be a Clinton. Nothing ever hits with the sting.
This is Ted Cruz tilting toward the general with an irreverent ad parodying the famous scene from Office Space wherein they take out the copy machine and destroy it with baseball bats. This making fun of the Clinton email server controversy. You got to wonder how long they were holding on to this, because I don't think that this was something that they made overnight. And I guess that they were waiting to time its release with news about the Clinton email server controversy, which did come yesterday as the Hillary, Bill, and Chelsea Clinton Foundation was a official there reported that they had been served a subpoena for records based on the inquiry into how she handled her emails, specifically with keeping it on a private server, and the idea that she might have had sensitive or classified information in an insecure location that might have been hacked. So this is Ted Cruz showing a little bit of levity, a little bit of irreverence, a little bit of humor. Timed very well, considering they come off as very prudish in this whole, softcore pornography actress thing. Which, let me just, okay, listen, I don't want to turn this into any kind of a gender thing or yada, 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 sex positivity, blah, blah, blah. But, like, it is kind of whack that, like, this lady who does the softcore porn is just labeled a porn star. Right? Because what we have an idea of what a porn star does, probably not exactly what she did. By and large, she was an actress that did softcore porn. So what? She might have showed her boobs. She might have pretended to have sex. That's like, how many people have done that? Regular actresses do that. It's just a matter that, like, that she is in worse movies. Right? It's not like you called the Dakota Johnson, the lady who was in 50 Shades of Grey, a softcore porn actress, right? But what's the difference between that movie and the movie that airs on Skinamax? Not a whole hell of a lot. One came out in the theaters. The other came on at around 11:30, 12 at night, maybe a little after. And I would just try to watch through that scrambled vision on my old cable box. Oh, that's a pleasure that the youth of America doesn't know. Watching scrambled pornography. Mwah. A fun memory. Oh, now I'm just taken back to those halcyon days in Davie, Florida, watching scrambled Skinamax on my old cable box. Those were the days. So there we go. This, I think, is a good ad for Ted Cruz. I don't know exactly what it does. Ted Cruz has run a very smart campaign. Let me just say this right here. Whether or not you like Ted Cruz, you got to appreciate the idea that he has mitigated a lot of the problems that normally dog a campaign like him. One that plays very heavily into Iowa. The idea is usually that he would falter as he went forward. South Carolina is a little bit more friendly to him. He had a strong showing in New Hampshire without spending a whole ton of money there. He is, according to all reports, probably the one who has spent the most on big data and targeting, on making his money stretch a little bit farther. That's done well for him. And now an ad like this not only shows, well, you want to know what? Maybe he's somebody that can not just be the stodgy old guy who's going to ban dancing, but rather somebody that can moderate a little bit and become more of somebody that moderate Republicans can tolerate, because going into some of these other primaries, you're going to have to face a lot more of them. He's got to soften his image for them. This does a good job there. And again, says, listen, I'm not just here to fight Republicans. I'm here to fight Democrats. And so here's how I could take on Hillary Clinton. It's good for Ted Cruz. Ted Cruz gets good marks on the campaign trail this week when it comes to the PX3 crowd. But exactly where is he? Exactly where are we finding ourselves right now in South Carolina? Well, there is one way to find out. And that way is to head on in to the most popular segment on the Politics podcast. So what do you say you, go ahead and take a shower and, maybe we'll head on out to Wendy's, get some food beforehand, maybe pregame a little bit because it's a little expensive in there, like $8 a drink expensive. But, what do you say we, let's just take one car. Let's go ahead and get dressed up. Yeah, get dressed up. Get dressed up. Slap on some of that cologne. Because, ladies and gentlemen, it's South Carolina. and you understand that this is a
Get on the floor if you got that booty.
dance. Oh, Hot Beverage says all I got is 20s. Don't worry, girl. We're stopping at the 7-Eleven. We're going to buy one bottle of water and crack all those one style. This is an Augusta Chronicle Bowl taken from February 10th to February 11th with 779 likely voters. Man, we've cleared the dance floor a little bit, so let's get right on in here. It's not K-Sitch, it's K-Sick, because he's got that sick ass, yo. 9% for Rick K-Sick. Oh, wait, there's one man behind him, and that is, he's got those slow motion for me, slow motion for me, slow motion for me moves. Dr. Ben Carson with 5%. Listen, man, people keep telling him to shave it, but he's got to go au natural. He's bringing his brother out on the floor to show that he has got the moves, whether you like it or not. It is Jeb Bush. 11%.
Get on the floor if you got that booty.
How about this? He's still in the mix. You can't dispel the fiction that his moves are legit. 15%. Say it with me. In your car, in your class, in your work. Marco Rubio. But let's break it down. He's got it both south and north of the border. The Cuban-Canadian, Rafael Ted Cruz with 20%. But I'll tell you what, man. He ain't America's boss for no reason, coming off a shellacking in the Granite State. He's looking to keep those trees moving in the Palmetto State. Ladies and gentlemen, Donald J. Trump, 36%, hitting it like Jerome Bettis at the goal line. Pop, 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 pop. He's got the moves, the skills to pay the bills. You throwing bands at Donald J. Trump with 36%. Ladies and gentlemen, that's our pole dance. And of course, we always have our own political poll right here as conducted by our poll master, Alec. Let's go ahead and get into what you guys voted for again. Bernie Sanders is your first place vote. And your second place vote is again Hillary Clinton. So, I mean, we are skewed, of course, heavily by Democrats, but Hillary Clinton didn't win by much. Close on her heels is undecided, and Marco Rubio and Bernie Sanders as the second place votes going forward. And our margin of error there is 0.01. Very, 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 very close. So here we go. Again, just to interpret this, that we asked you guys to ask who you're voting for, right? Bernie Sanders wins. Second place, Marco Rubio. Third place, Hillary Clinton. But when then asked if your person doesn't win, who would you like to vote for? That went to Hillary Clinton at 25%, 6 with undecided, 4 with Marco Rubio, 25% for Hillary Clinton, 11.43% for Marco Rubio, same 11% for Bernie Sanders. Let's get this undecided out of here. Well, we're not here for undecideds, right? If you're undecided, you're not going to take the poll. We want people who are deciding here for us. We need to, even if it's a 0.1% decision in your mind, we got to get hard answers here. We're not looking for science. We're looking for headlines. So thank you. If you would like to take our new poll, it is bit.ly/politics9. That is bit.ly/politics99999. It's not 3 9s, it's just 1 9. But let's go ahead and get into our emails. If you would like to send us an email, it is justinrobertyoung@gmail.com. But politics in the subject line. Again, that is justinrobertyoung@gmail.com. Put politics in the subject line. Let's go ahead and start off here with a voicemail we got from Mr. Matt Johnson.
Hey, Justin, it's Matt from Asheville, North Carolina. Wanted to make a quick point, which I am a Hillary Clinton supporter, and I have a lot of friends who are Bernie Sanders supporters. I live in a blue dot within a fairly purple state. But the point I want to make is all of you who are jazzed about Bernie Sanders, you guys need to still show up if he doesn't end up being the nominee. And even more important, you guys need to show up in these off-cycle elections for state and local legislatures, because they're the ones who are making the real decisions that affect you on a daily basis. The president can only do so much. And just because you're not jazzed and psyched about a particular candidate, you still need to show up, because what will happen is that the progressive purple state of North Carolina ends up turning into a red state because you guys didn't show up and vote. And yes, you might like Bernie Sanders more than Hillary Clinton, but you know what? Hillary Clinton is going to be a hell of a lot better than a Republican. So just keep that in mind when you go to the polls. Love the show, Justin. Thanks.
Listen to that voice. Listen to that voice. I just want to go back to this one part of the voicemail.
I'm a Hillary Clinton supporter, and I have a lot of friends who are Bernie Sanders supporters. I live in a...
Listen, Matt, thank you for listening to the show. Thank you for sending in your voicemail. But I want everybody to listen to that voice. And Matt, look into your heart. You know it to be true. Because that hey, better than a Republican. That's Hillary. That's what Hillary's saying right now. Because the one thing she can't do, because, oh my God, does she want to just unleash the dragon and eviscerate Bernie Sanders. She just wants to get up and say, a socialist? Really? She wants to really with Seth and Amy her to death. Or to him to death. Oh, does she just want to crush his grape-like head? But she can't. Want to know why? Because a lot of people like him. And she needs those people to vote. So when Matt is out here saying, hey, listen, remember to vote. And then he gets into the, off-cycle elections. Of course. I would also say, if you really care about these causes, then more than voting, you need to be out there working for your cause. You need to be out there beyond trying to fix it with laws. You need to be trying to fix it with your own two hands every day that isn't voting day. You guys know on this show that I am violently opposed to the idea that you gotta vote or this is the day that you make your difference. BS. If you believe that election day is the only day, whether presidential election, off-cycle election, yada, 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 if you believe that election days are the only days where you can have your voice heard, then you are agreeing to be marginalized by a system that is as cynical and power-driven as anything that you could demonize in the business community. And I'm not saying anything's pure, right? I'm just saying that politics in general are not for the pure of heart, right? We don't live in a world where Mr. Smith actually goes to Washington. And if you really believe in these causes, work on them every day but election day. Because I'm telling you this, that's when politicians are actually paying attention. By the time that campaigns come around, they've figured out where you stand. And so they will run against or for that. Every day other than voting day is what you need to focus on. But again, man, Matt is echoing something that he is getting from the Hillary Clinton campaign, which is just, all right, hey, spirited debate, right? But please let's not make this something where we hate each other. And the Republicans are saying the same thing. Maybe not Trump supporters. Trump supporters are like they are like the stone cold Steve Austin of supporters. They're like, we don't need you. We don't need anybody. We don't need the Republican Party. We are literally running on our own ideas. But Ted Cruz needs Marco Rubio supporters. Marco Rubio would need Ted Cruz supporters. Jeb Bush would need everyone's supporters and a miracle. Ben Carson needs everyone's supporters and a glass of warm milk because he's so tired. But yeah, no. So thank you very, very much for emailing in, Matt. And again, listen, you gotta watch out. You gotta make sure that you can. That's the art of the politics, is that you gotta make sure that you are not doing more damage by trying to get your message out there and win your general election. Ken writes in, imagine a candidate, either Republican or Democrat, that said, I don't want to be president. Vote for me if you hate the establishment. If elected, I'll refuse to swear in. I'll show up at the ceremony, and I'll make fart noises until everyone leaves in disgust. Let's burn this mother-flippin' political system to the ground. Do you think that candidate has a chance? Because I'm starting to think he or she might. I mean, honestly, literally, go read about Lawrence Lessig's campaign this cycle. It's exactly what he said. Except for the mouth farts, it's exactly what he said. He said that he would win, and then he would turn it over to whoever his vice president was, but he would not swear in, and that he was literally just there to get big money out of politics. He was a one-issue protest candidate. So go read about Lawrence Lessig, and then if you want to talk about whether or not that would be successful, the answer, since Lawrence Lessig is no longer even running because he couldn't raise enough money to keep running, is no. And Paul in Tokyo writes, two of the most salient takes on the current political climate I've heard recently came from outside the political sphere, Dan Carlin and John Scalzi. Starting with Dan Carlin. On his most recent Common Sense episode, Carlin said that if the anti-establishment mood reflected by Trump and Sanders supporters is this fervent now, and establishment candidates, i.e. Rubio and Clinton, win anyway, what will it be like in 4 years? Would Clinton winning via methods widely seen as less than above board finally be enough to persuade the Democrats to scrap the superdelegate system? Scalzi, meanwhile, wrote this on Trump's win in New Hampshire. But here, let's take these one at a time. The superdelegate system, Nate Silver wrote a great thing about this on 538, is, I think, more demonized than it needs to be. Because superdelegates very rarely go against popular opinion. So if you saw, as you saw last time with Clinton and Obama, in 08 rather, the superdelegates wind up flipping to the person that has the momentum. If it were an absolute stalemate and the superdelegates played the role of tiebreaker, then yes, I could see a lot of anger about that. But even then, you're looking at a brokered convention effectively where somebody's going to have to kind of retire with dignity. It would take a lot for superdelegates to be the ones that really made the decision. So I don't think that, like, right now there's a lot of headlines on the idea that the superdelegates are, gave Hillary Clinton as many delegates despite the fact that she got a boot in her ass in New Hampshire. But I really don't think that that's going to be an issue. Now, the idea that quote unquote establishment candidates have less power than they have in the past, I think that's for real. And I think you're seeing that play out on the Republican side. In general, I think that has more to do with general dissatisfaction with government in general than necessarily what the establishment is. So, I don't know. I don't know where this trend goes because it has shown up more profoundly on this election cycle than it has in the past. But my suspicion is that this kind of insurgency affects what the establishment does more than it takes down the establishment. That would be my guess. And we continue with Paul's email. Scalzi wrote this on Trump's win in New Hampshire, and I'd be curious to see how accurate you feel it is. Quote, this scares the poop out of the GOP establishment, as well it should. But, as I've noted before, the rise of a populist demagogue was exactly what the GOP was aiming for years. Yet again, for the people in the back, if your party spends decades undermining the legitimacy of government and of governance, and if you've sublet your messaging to radio talk show hosts and news networks whose bread and butter is making old white people scared and younger white people angry at minorities, if you've pandered to that scared and angry chord and continued to undermine government and governance in a distinctly non-virtuous cycle, then a populist demagogue at your party's presidential candidate is probably inevitable. The GOP's misfortune is that it comes in the form of Trump, who doesn't need its money and doesn't care about the Republican Party in any real sense, except as a rented mule he can whip when it suits him. Billionaires are supposed to fund, not to run. Trump is vulgar and racist and generally horrible, but he's not stupid, and he understands the moment and the movement the GOP has provided him. The GOP establishment gave him a car that runs on vitriol, and he's going to drive it hard until it falls apart under him. And he's not going to stick around to clean up the exploded mess. Why should he? John Scalzi is an amazing writer. I think he's a very astute political mind. I respectfully disagree with him on this. I think that this kind of falls into an oversimplistic view of where we are. I don't think that Trump's support is based on demagoguery necessarily. And I think that his talk radio and media theory leaves a lot to be desired, considering the fact that, Rush Limbaugh was defending Marco Rubio against Donald Trump, that Fox News is in open war with Donald Trump, which would normally be the two immediate conservative right-wing media platforms that you would point to say that this is the problem. Now you could say, okay, well, all the stuff they did in the past is what fuels Donald Trump, and that's what he's running on. But I really don't think that. Why would those masses stop listening? So where are we? We obviously have a general issue in this country, or not issue. Issue makes it sound like it's a bad thing. We generally have a trend in this country right now where populist candidates are doing very, very well. It's the same thing with Bernie Sanders. And I don't think that you can say, hey, look, this is because of this certain thing I don't like on the right wing, without saying, well, look, it's not like the Democrats haven't outsourced their messaging to the Daily Kos and Slate. And it's not like they haven't outsourced their messaging to Rachel Maddow. And it's not like those outlets have been shy about saying, well, we are not thrilled with how the lack of progressive action that President Obama has taken. Or that the idea that, hell, it's not like Bernie Sanders invented this idea that Hillary Clinton taking a bunch of money from Goldman Sachs is a problem. Who do you think, came up with this? This was the liberal blogosphere and liberal talk news, right? Like, this is a thing that's out there. He didn't invent it. So I think Scalzi has a great point in saying, hey, look, there's a lot of these things that were used to kind of stoke the passions that people in establishments on both sides thought they could control. It has become apparent that it is not as easy to control as one might think. Because for as much as the Republican establishment wishes they could control Trump, the Democratic establishment wishes they could control Bernie. They wish they could. They've done everything they could to make this a coronation for Hillary. Down to the fact that it still will probably be a coronation for Hillary. But it's been way closer, and we are bordering on the idea that Hillary will be done damage by Bernie. How much did the Democratic establishment set this one up for Hillary? Let me explain. She has more endorsements by sitting Democratic elected officials than anyone has ever had at any point in the Democratic nominating process that wasn't a sitting president. Joe Biden, who could have actually made this a little bit more of a race, sat out. Who do you think's in his ear telling him not to run? People that are friendly with Hillary Clinton. Democratic establishment. Good for the party people. So I think Scalzi's got a good point. But I don't think that this is a Republican problem. And I don't think that it's quite for the reasons that he lays out in that article. And in general, it is kind of a pet peeve of mine that, like, and this is why I like to do this show. This is why I like to talk to you guys. Because, like, I don't feel that my intellectual curiosity ends with, well, it's got to be on one side of the aisle. Because, like, no matter what your personal opinions are, if you really want to understand this, if you really want to see where these things are going, I don't think you can be allowed to. I don't think that it's good. If that's where your intellectual curiosity ends in the these people bad, my people good, And I don't think you're ever going to see the whole picture. At least that's one man's opinion. Again, you can email us, justinrobertyoung@gmail.com. You can buy The Contender at thecontender.us. We would like to thank Valesco and Trop Killers for our music that we used during the show. And you can follow me at Justin R. Young everywhere. We are moving into the politics category this week, and we want to make a splash. If you listen to us on iTunes, go ahead and take the time to review us, rate us, subscribe, tell a friend, let them know that the only place that is giving you this scratch on the itch you have to know more about this political race and to laugh at it in a way that nobody else will allow you to, well, it's right here.
Politics, 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 politics.
And of course, our new poll, bit.ly/politics9. Till next week, ladies and gentlemen, my name is Justin Robert Young. Some shows give you politics, others give you politics, but this is the only show to give you politics.
Yes.
See you next week.
Diamond Club hopes you have enjoyed this program.